Hey everyone, I'm going to show you how to use Google Sheets to make a graph. Now, the data that I'm using here may or may not be the same as the data that you're using for your activity, so please make sure that you read your directions carefully and answer the questions that you are being asked for your activity. In my example, I have a set of time and position data. I want to make a graph of this. I'm going to skip over number 1 and number 2 because that's information that you'll be able to answer from your notes. But this is just a general tutorial on how to make a graph. So I'm going to highlight my data. So I click on my first number and I'm going to drag and highlight all of the data. Do not include the words. The next thing you want to do is click on Insert, Chart, and you'll see that it automatically makes a line chart by default, but that's not what we want. In physics, we only make scatter charts so that we can add a meaningful trend line. So click where it says line chart, scroll down to where it says scatter, and now you should get a graph that has a bunch of data points. The next thing that we need to do is add a trend line. So click Customize, click Series, scroll down, click where it says trend line. This lets you add a trend line. Now you'll notice that it is adding a straight line, a linear trend line. We might use some of the other trend lines, but for now, we just want to stick with linear. Then you need to add the equation of the line. So click where it says label and choose use equation. Now you're done with your trend line. So you can close this out. We're just going to drag this graph over here so it covers the purple spot for our graph. And you can see this includes the things that a great graph should have. It has a title, position versus time. It has my axes labeled. Time goes on the x-axis. It is the independent variable. Position goes on the y-axis. It is the dependent variable. I have units for each of my quantities. I have my trend line, my equation of the line. It's in the form y equals mx plus b. If you recall maybe from math class that when you have an equation in this form, y equals mx plus b, m is the slope. So to answer number 4, where it's asking for the slope of my graphed data, because on a position versus time graph, the slope equals the velocity, all I have to do is look at the equation of my line, and I know that the slope is 1.26. So that is all that I have to do. Using Google Sheets lets me get the slope of my graph without having to do a long calculation. For the last question, I need to calculate the percent error. You can find this equation on the last slide of our notes, and I have the equation here. So you can see the equation here. Percent error equals experimental value minus accepted value divided by accepted value times 100. So when you are typing this into your calculator, the experimental value is equal to the slope of the graph, 1.26, my answer from number 4. The accepted value I get from reading the description in number 5. It says the manufacturer tested the velocity of a Roomba and uses 1.2 meters per second as the accepted value for its velocity. So 1.2 is the accepted value. So in my calculations, 1.26 minus 1.2, I'm going to hit equals. If there is a negative, drop the negative. Divide by the accepted value, so divide by 1.2, hit equals, times 100, and that'll give you your percent error. In this example, the percent error should be 5. And there you have it, we are finished.